3, 2, 1, relax. It's meant to be a rest day, but I believe today's guest is probably not resting anytime soon. We have a 7 times regionals competitor, 1-time Sanctionals competitor in the sport of fitness, CrossFit. She is sponsored by Noble, True Protein, Pure Spectrum, VersaLifts, and she follows the Power and Grace program. She's a trainer at Rise and Conquer CrossFit in Bankstown, Sydney.
Blacktown.
Blacktown. My apologies.
Right. So.
You can find her on Instagram at Tia Wright09.
06. But super close.
Mate, today I'm getting everything wrong. Well, Tia Wright or Tia Cranford,
Yeah.
welcome on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. Yeah.
We also have Muller, who's the owner or co-owner of Rise and Conquer CrossFit.
Yep.
Co-owner. Who's the other owner?
So Aldrin Oxing, call him Buzz. Yeah.
Okay. Tia, after watching the Rogue Invitationals this weekend,
Oh, yeah.
do you have a little bit of a, not a regret, but did you have any thoughts about, I should have maybe done that event instead of doing Wollongong?
Well, it was interesting because the spotlight was really on Rogue, I kind of felt like, but my entire year was not shaped or scheduled around training or competing. And so honestly, if I was even invited to the Rogue Invitational, I would have felt a little out of place. Those girls have created a life of they train all day long. It's just a huge part of their life. And for me to be in a transition year, I would have felt out of place had I been at Rogue. That was, and I was never even near qualifying. They took the top 20 from the world, I think, and gave them invites.
Is that how they did it?
From the Open? Yeah.
Okay.
So.
But that event looked amazing though. I want to go next year.
Talk about having premier equipment. For an event, they had all the best stuff.
But even the live stream and the way the workouts ran.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty cool. I think Rogue just has the network of good people to run an event like that. Plus, they've done the Rogue Invitational previous years.
Have they?
Yeah.
I've never seen it, hey.
Well, they have. They've done a competition, a Rogue comp.
At the headquarters. I think they have had did they have a regionals? Or that might have been Reebok.
I am 90% positive that they've had a comp before this Sanctionals.
Muller, how positive are you that they haven't had one?
Well, I've never seen it. If it was, maybe it was big in America, but...
And do you watch a bit of it?
I watched one event this time around.
Honestly, the only thing I really saw from that this weekend was the girls running out. And I was like, well, those are all, games athlete,
Yes,
games
I saw
athlete.
that.
I was like,
you saw the field of athletes. Yeah, that was crazy. It was sick just watching the top female heat was incredible. Or everyone, the top male heat was incredible. And the legends was, it gave me, I got pumped up again, to put it that way. I haven't watched a CrossFit event in a while and been like, oh, wow, this is sick.
Yeah, I think the legends, the videos they had introducing the legends, that was really cool.
That was cool.
It brings you back to where CrossFit kind of started, and it makes you appreciate all the athletes at that time, and then for them to be still training how they are today. That was pretty cool to watch.
Yeah.
Favorite athlete?
Oh, I only watched the female, but for the girls, it's a tough one. There's too many.
But when you watch that Legends, the clip.
Oh, Legends. Well, Sam Briggs was there and she was just dominating. So she's just it was easy for her. She wasn't even tired after. So for that one, definitely Sam Briggs.
Tia, how about you?
I knew you were going to ask me that. I honestly, I'm picking through my brain right now. I don't know if I have a favorite athlete.
Well, this brings me to the first topic that I wanted to talk about is your introduction to CrossFit and how you got hooked on it and how you drank the Kool-Aid, because I think all 3 of us have done that at some point.
What a fun time.
Yeah, I loved it. I call it the honeymoon phase. That
Absolutely.
First time, first 6 months to a year and a half, I just loved everything. And I mean, Matt Chan for me was a big one that stood out, and I really loved watching him compete and also what he did outside of the gym. But yeah, you didn't have any girls or any guys that really
So I was up in the Northwest and of the United States, and I got to be honest, the Northwest is like in its own bubble of the country. Like once I did a competition outside of the Northwest and like went down to Wadapalooza, I realized that everywhere is like a bigger community. So like the California people know the Florida people, and they come in and they just kind of know each other. But I felt like the Northwest was in their own little bubble. And so one of the athletes that came out of that area was, do you remember back when Emily Carruthers was competing? She just married Pat Sherwood. You know Pat Sherwood?
Yep.
I know who he is, but...
Yeah, so she married Pat Sherwood, but back then her name was Emily Carruthers, and she's from the Northwest, but she was just an outstanding athlete, went to the games, well, I think maybe 3 or 4 times in a row, and just a natural athlete, but she was from the area, very similar beliefs as me, and I just like looked up to her. She's married, has kids, and just kind of managed it all, and so I remember her starting CrossFit at the same gym I started at. And then she moved on to compete and train. I don't even know where she ended up training at. But then I like was a baby and was doing regionals, and I saw her at regionals, and I was like, oh man, she's so amazing. Like qualified for the games. And then that just became someone that I looked up to. Oh yeah. Emily and I were really close.
Were you nervous the first time you talked to her?
No, because I had known her from the gym. And so I was like, hey, like I'm this little kid. Like I just want to compete. And like you made it to the games. And I just prefaced it with the fact that, I wanted to one day go to the games. But I just like giggle now, like looking back on like some little girl that comes up to a games athlete and they're like, oh, I want to go to the CrossFit games. And they're like, like you have a lot of work ahead of you.
Yeah. Big journey.
Yeah.
So to jump even further back, what brought you into CrossFit? Did you have an unhealthy lifestyle before you came into it, or what was the motivation to get into a gym?
Well, I started CrossFit right after high school. So I graduated high school, and that summer I was introduced to CrossFit through a friend, and I had a Bulgarian high school PE coach, and he taught our track team and like in middle school, but he did a lot of strength and conditioning with athletes that wanted to take it to the next level. So we had a track athlete who was a fabulous sprinter. And then we had so me and my other 2 friends were the star of the volleyball team. And we kind of just, he really grabbed onto us and was like, hey, I want to teach you guys like athleticism, not just sport, but athleticism. So he's from Bulgaria. His name is Emil Verbovsky, and he taught us how to snatch with these like weighted rods.
How old were you?
Like 14, 15, 16.
Wow. Sick.
Yeah, it was cool. Like a neat experience. And I remember him calling it a snatch and a jerk. And I remember being like, these are the weirdest things.
Well, now you know what it feels like when new people come into the gym.
Like, who the heck calls it this? You know what I mean? Like, it was so weird. And he had us all lined up in rows, and we all had our own weights. Like, they were pretty much just sticks. And he would coach it however he coached it. I don't even remember how he would teach us, but I remember being up there and not understanding what we were doing. But the transfer was amazing. And really, like, my senior year was when I told him, I said, hey, I'll come at 6 a.m. before school and I'll train with you. And then I'll do my sports after school. And I think I was one of 2 athletes that told him and devoted myself to him to say, hey, I want to do this. And so obviously when I graduated high school, because there was nothing left. Like I was like, now what, right? I had never been to a Globo gym. I'd never been in the bodybuilding world. The only thing I ever knew was what Emil had taught me and sport, which was like club volleyball and tennis and track. And so, yeah, a friend introduced me to CrossFit. It was like just the diamond in the rough, like back in, you go in these like back alleys into these weird garages, and there were no windows and everything was black, and it was so intense, like nobody wore logos. Everyone wore all black. That's how I feel like CrossFit was back in 2010.
Dirty and dusty.
Yeah, really dirty, rugged. Everyone's playing metal music, and like, it's so rugged and awesome. And so he had me doing like air squats to a ball and doing jumping pull-ups.
This is your first session?
Yeah. In burpees. And I was
Back
dying.
in the day, we did squat to the ball.
Yeah. Air squats to a ball and doing jumping pull-ups.
Sick.
And I just was like, well, that's pretty cool. So I found one near me because he was living in Gig Harbor. And so I found like a gym in my area. And I walked in and we were doing snatches. She was like, have you ever done snatches before? And I was like, yeah, of course. Like, I know what that is. And they were like,
wow.
What? Like, hi, I'm 19. I know how to snatch. Like, it was a really unique experience. So when I had the, like, not loss of sports, but like the lack of high school structure, coming into CrossFit and having classes and programming and a coach. And I mean, that's like a found home for a lost athlete. And then I was going into college for volleyball, and I went into my fall first season in college, and like nobody else was doing strength and conditioning. Nobody else was training. They were just playing volleyball, and I kicked everybody's butt in fitness. Like I was fitter than everyone out there. Everyone was sore, and I was like, I'm not sore at all.
But you were a little bit short.
Yes, I'm a little short. So, you know, like my fitness really made up for some skill lack, but they really did just take me for...
Did you play a position or did you guys rotate?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I played back row libero, and then every once in a while they'd throw me in as a setter.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so that's kind of the background. And then I actually quit volleyball in college because I said like, hey, CrossFit's like really where I've found my home. And the year I did that, I made it to my first regionals.
Straight off the bat. Muller, how jealous are you on that?
I've been doing CrossFit 6-7 years now. Still haven't made it, so pretty jealous.
Yeah, that's incredible. Do you remember your first CrossFit session? I want to hear yours.
Mine probably didn't happen at a CrossFit gym, but I grew up within the gym setting because my grandpa was a bodybuilder and he was actually competing. I had a few uncles who were bodybuilders, so it was just natural for myself and my cousins. Tia would tease me. I have a few cousins, and there's quite a few boys, and we all just grew up like coming to each other's houses and trained. So everyone had some sort of setup and just did a lot of.
But do you remember when someone actually said this is a CrossFit workout?
Well, not really. So the reason I was looking for something new is because I started getting into a little bit of running, but every time there's a running event, I'd stop bodybuilding because that limited me. And then I'd go back to bodybuilding after that's done. And then one of my uni friends, Paul Maloney, who owns co-owner of CrossFit Urge, I went to uni with him, and I didn't see him for about 6-7 months. And the next time I saw him, he was jacked. But he was really skinny before that. He was really skinny. And then he posted up photos of doing a competition. And then I think they were doing farmer carries, and that's not something you really saw 6-7 years ago.
Oh, he did a CrossFit competition.
Yeah, and then from there, Paul actually stalked him and messaged him, asked him what it was, and I found out it was CrossFit because he was going on a Nepean. So I started looking up CrossFit and did CrossFit workouts at Anytime Fitness back then.
Oh, whoa.
So I think one of my first must have been Fran, and it was like,
it
probably took like 12 minutes. And then you're on the floor for half an hour.
Yeah.
And then the next week I'd do it again. And then next week, and my goal was just to keep doing
Fran.
Yeah.
That's the only one you knew? That's funny.
I felt like that was a staple CrossFit workout back in the day. That's what everyone talked about. So, but eventually I knew that I needed some sort of coaching, some sort of structure. And then I ended up going to Nepean CrossFit, which was about half an hour from here. So I was going there for about a year.
Oh, cool.
That's cool. That's pretty much how I got into it, and then from there, just learnt so much from there going on.
There's so many stories with people that started with Fran. Yeah, and I actually never get sick of them. They're mad. Everyone just gets humbled. Well, back in the day they did, but now I feel like people just master it so much quicker.
Yeah, it's not such a big thing anymore these days.
It was so new, right? Like you think about the development of the sport, like people. There's still, even in 2010, people were so new to CrossFit and so new to the like feeling of what that is. Like,
we had no equipment.
Of course, we got wrecked by it because we had no metabolic endurance and we didn't have any sustainability for like feeling that CrossFit hurt. And now, I mean, we're like more than a decade into CrossFit. People have been doing it for more than a decade. And so they've had a decade of experience in that like feeling, that Fran feeling. Yeah. So people like I feel like they get just as wrecked, but they hold their own better.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. They execute better.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, that's exactly right. So we had, I went through it in the introduction. Mm-hmm. You've had quite a few years at regionals, but now the competition landscape or our season has changed. It's now called Sanctionals, but it's basically the same. And we just had our first Sanctionals, you had your first Sanctionals event, which was here in Australia. And I wanted to talk to about that a little bit because we just wrapped it up.
Fresh.
Yes. Well, you jumped right back into training, despite the name of the podcast. He didn't take a rest day. But
it's a relative term.
It is, absolutely. Active rest. What was your highlight of the weekend? Because I think that was day one.
It's a good one. Yeah, day one was a great day. I just want to like preface kind of the review of the weekend was just having no expectations going into the weekend, and with the sole focus of having a good mindset. Like I wanted to just like have a good balance. So going into day one, I was like, okay, we need to remember all weekend that my sole purpose of being here is just to like enjoy it and have a really great time. Enjoy the highs, enjoy the lows, and just like.
Do you mean enjoying the result regardless, or enjoy the execution and the weekend and just the almost the social factor of it all? It's usually quite a social weekend.
More the like event itself, because it really is a fun weekend. Like you have all of your CrossFit community in one area. You've got tons of people to meet. Like it's amped. You get to do fitness all weekend long. Like everyone's excited. Like it's awesome. And previously, I felt like it had just gotten so stressful. Like I had just put so much pressure on myself, and I just didn't want to do that this year, especially because I had not put any work into training or focusing on the season at all. So I went into day one with just like let's just see what happens.
And you mean that you haven't scheduled your life to the season and to the events, but you've trained?
Yeah, so
I've trained with you.
Yeah, so like
ran laps around me.
The last 7 weeks I've actually trained. So I trained for 7 weeks for the Down Under Championship. But previous to that, so like in any given year that I was training for regionals, like you wake up, you train, you go back home, maybe get a bite to eat. I would go back to the gym, train again, and then work all night. And I did that day in, day out. Like you sacrifice going out with friends because you need to get sleep, and you take your weekends for training on Saturdays, and then you don't want to do anything on Sundays, and you do that day in, day out, weeks in a row, months and months.
All your choices optimizes you for
literally everything surrounds that decision. And I love that place. Like I absolutely love doing that. I don't know what it is about me that like I will thrive if I get to do that. I don't miss anything. I don't feel like I'm missing out, which is funny because I'm like the biggest FOMO ever if I'm not in games mode.
Yeah, that's definitely. If say we're somewhere in the corner, I'm talking with someone, Tia's going, hey, what's going on? What am I missing? What am I missing?
What are you talking about? I want to know if you left out.
Talking about you, Tia, go away.
It's like seriously the biggest FOMO. Like if you guys told me that you guys were going swimming in the ocean and I wasn't invited, I would be so sad.
About that.
Great. But if I was in games mode and you said you were doing that and it wasn't part of my programming, I'd be like, okay, cool. But anyway, so I used to be so focused and surrounded by that. And for many years, like 4 years in a row, that cultivated some really awesome responses in my performance, more results in my responses or in my performances. But this year, I did like maybe a session a week. My coaches wiped my training template clean. I didn't do anything, maybe did some classes here or there. And then I got married, moved countries, and started a new job here with Buzz and Muller. And like the Open started, and then I wasn't even going to sign up for the Open and signed up because these guys were doing it. And it was awesome here, and it was a huge community event. and then randomly qualified for Down Under. So like that's kind of the context of like this just happened, and
Different
it was
to you,
an
other years for you.
opportunity. It was an opportunity, not a standard for myself or an expectation. It was an opportunity. So that's kind of what I went into going into the weekend, and that made day one like so fun because on a max lift, if that's what you're going for, like if it's just having and enjoy it, like you get to look around and you get to see the stadium when everyone else is going, and you can kind of absorb all the energy. And it went really well. I PR'd my clean and jerk for the first time in a long time. Like, as you guys know, you do CrossFit for a while. It takes a long time to PR, and hitting a personal record it's achievable. It's so
let's go in details on this story, because I think you had a plan with some numbers you wanted to hit. And maybe explain it for some people who haven't competed at regionals, because you're down in the warm-up area, you do a few lifts. It's the atmosphere can be pretty good, but it can also be a bit stressful. You take it from there, like, because you might not get equipment or whatever.
Oh yeah. So my coaches we had all kind of jumped around with numbers. Like Muller was like, well, okay, maybe we'll start here. Like I was like, I think this is where I want to start. Maybe get 2 lifts in a minute.
Tell me the numbers. What did you want her to start at, or what did you want to start at?
So, all right, let's just say more effort was put into calculating pounds than actually lifting it. We had 3 numbers. I forgot what they were.
Okay, so at first
220.
Well, at first I was like, I wanted to start with like an 85 kilo clean and jerk. Start off really easy, warm up, and then hit 95 in the same minute. Because I wanted to get
you wanted the first lift at the platform to be 85.
Yeah, and then 95.
Just to lock it in, but then
Yeah.
that's 2 lifts.
That sounds like was his plan.
No, that was my
That was
plan.
your plan. Okay.
This is why I have coaches. So
conservative, right?
then we decided we needed to do conversions. So then we started at 200 pounds.
Which is closer to 90 kilos.
It's 91.
I don't know. Your gym's a pound.
Yeah, I think it's about 90.
It's 91.
It's meant to be 200.
7 or something.
Yep.
The starting weight was meant to be 200, but then we thought, let's decide once we go to the warm-up.
Right.
So
Total
she was
free spirit.
200 in the warm-up, felt amazing. She did not even struggle. So I think the weights in the back area only allowed us to do 205.
Yeah, correct.
Because they didn't have the increments. So it allowed us to do 205. So from there, we thought 205 looked good, easy, not even a struggle. So you started at 210.
Yeah, so we were like, okay, we're going to do 210. Went out there, like we had a good warm up. Everything was great. I felt amazing.
Who did you warm up with? Did you share the platform with some other girls?
Yeah, there were 2 other girls. One girl that I competed at the West Regional with last year.
An American girl?
Yeah. Her name is Haley or Heidi?
Not
I don't
sure.
know.
She was
Anyways,
she was with Star Strength.
there were 2 of them that were with Star Strength. And then so we all just kind of warmed up together, and like it was great. Like there was no fighting for equipment. Like it was great. We had an amazing time, and everybody kind of knew each other. We were all very friendly. Nobody was like too weirdly intense.
Well, everyone was trying to figure out what the numbers were. That's for sure.
Yeah. And so my experience in weightlifting like really helped because I knew kilos, but then like I also grew up in America, so I know pounds. Yeah. So I know both. And anyway, so we hit 205 in the warm-up area and was like, okay, we're going to go out there and hit 210. So I'm like loading my bar for the first one and panicking. And I put 20 pounds more, I think, on the bar than I was supposed to. And I ended up, and then like it was coming up close to my time. And I like just ended up doing, I think I took it off, and then I ended up doing 212 for my first one.
So obviously Tia asked me to help her out in the back. Like, she's got a coach who does programs, so my role there was really to make sure everything was set for her. But I knew that the bar was loaded wrong for her first lift.
But so she didn't know.
She didn't know yet, but I'm watching them thinking, okay, there's 15 seconds left. If I tell Tia now, she's probably going to freak out. And if she's going to freak out, she could potentially miss. But at the back of my head, I'm thinking, I know that she can get it because 205 was easy at the back. However, this is 7 pounds. This is 7 pounds more. I just had to make a decision. Like, I can't stress her out. So I just left it. And she went for it, and when she lifted, I was so relieved because I was thinking, if she missed it, that's on me.
Oh my gosh.
And then it didn't get any better from there.
No, it didn't.
Because of the pounds.
It was so bad. I just don't even like, all the change plates were so confusing. So then I like put another one on, and I think that one went fine. And then I was like, okay, like I'm going to go to like 227. And I like load the bar, whatever. I declare my weight because we had to declare our weight. I was like, okay, I'm going to do 227. And then like 2 minutes go by. It's about to be my turn. And the judges go, this is 232. This is not 230 or 227. It's like, and I just kind of froze. And then the judge just like looked at me and he just goes, just lift the bar.
Yes, what a boss.
Literally.
He
and
turned
I was
into
like,
a coach.
You turned around too. And I was like, just do it.
I think
You're
I
looking
just turned
strong.
around and I just looked at him and was like, I don't really, okay. And so I didn't even think, like, I just went, and honestly, like, super easy clean, super easy jerk. And then I was like, amen for that, because
That's why you high-fived your judge. So
yeah, I high-fived my judge. I was like, thank you for telling me to just lift the bar. So pretty unpredictable moment, but it happened amazingly. I was so happy.
Yeah.
You think they only have a minute to lift, but that was like those 3 minutes were the longest minutes.
Yeah.
But I knew every time she cleaned it, she'd be able to jerk it.
Yeah.
So that last clean, she got it up nice and easy, but like she was moving slow.
I'm not a fast mover.
Come on. But then once the jerk was in,
Could you lift it twice in the minute?
Yes, if you wanted. Yeah.
And you could add weight as well in the minute. Was that... Did people do that? I didn't really
Well, that's what I meant by like my first minute. I was like, oh, well, 85 would be super light. And you have this, what happens at CrossFit events is you warm up and you have to check in before your heat. So like 10, sometimes 15 minutes before, but 10 minutes before. And then there's this like gap time between when the actual event starts on the floor. Yeah. So from the time that you take your last lift in the warm up area and go out on the floor, there's probably about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So not only is there 15 minutes, but there's also you lined up, like your headspace, your nerves. This is the first event. Like you've got so much going on in your head, and you're like, what just happened in the warm-up area? I don't even remember. And so I'm like, hop out there and don't even follow my plan. I had plan A written on my hand and plan B written on my hand, and I didn't hit a single number on my hand, either plan A or plan B.
Like, it's so good.
Nothing went to plan, but it's fine, whatever, right? So
it does create those mad stories. That the max lift event is always funny to hear the background stories, because you see one really you just see one lift from the athletes, and it's like their highest lift, and that's what gets put on their social and stuff. But you don't hear the head game and the confusion, and they're like, oh, I did something wrong. It's so good.
Yeah. So that was probably my highlight of the whole weekend, to be honest.
And you took did you take a 7th overall?
So that was 7th on that event.
That event, yeah.
Yep.
That's what I meant, yeah.
And I would never like compare myself to be like one of the stronger girls. That's
very good. You're one of the smaller girls there.
Yeah. I was really happy with that. And then in the second event that day, I took 3rd place because it was the muscle up workout. So yeah. Good
first day for you.
Yeah.
And then a bit of a challenge we knew was going to come on the second day.
Yeah.
With a swim.
Yeah, definitely. Like the rest of the event, and that's where I've been telling people, they're like, how did it go? Like, oh, you got a taste of third, whatever. I was like, yeah, like, and based on like my background in this year and how it went and my perspective coming into this, I was battling all weekend, like, oh, a taste of the podium. Like, no, stay focused and like, don't put pressure on yourself. Like, oh, but you could do it, but you really need to just back off and like, remember, like, we're just here to have fun. And then, but like, what if you really crush this? You could maybe go. Like, I was just like battling and finding a balance between the two of those things all weekend long. And so I think with it said and with it done and over with, like, I need to practice swimming in the ocean.
A little bit more than what you did.
Yeah. But I'm so happy with it, and it was an awesome weekend. So
did you guys did they start everyone together in the swim?
It was like 5 people at a time,
5
maybe
girls.
2 or 3 minutes, like 2 seconds behind each other. It was like basically a rolling start.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably a good way to do it. So you didn't have to, crash with too many girls. Were you racing with someone?
Well, here was what my initial mistake was. They said that we could go down and run on the hard sand
Yeah.
But in order for us to get in the water, we had to go back up the beach to go around the gate in order to get in the water.
Mm-hmm.
And so I added a lot of distance by running down towards the water to get onto the hard sand and then back up. I felt like I lost a lot of time.
It's quite a wide beach.
Yeah. I should have just stayed. And the minute I started running, I was like, this is a horrible idea.
So did some of the girls you started with go down to the hard sand and some went in the soft?
Yeah. And it's a trap. It's a trap, like from Star Wars. It's a trap. But it really was because I was like, oh, hard sand, like that's going to make the run easier.
Yeah.
But the easier route was not better because it took way longer. Like it's still running on the sand and didn't save us any energy. Like I should have just stayed with the pack and I should have just, you know, like run on the soft sand and then entered in with the pack. And
because it wasn't that long, that first run. Hey. Yeah.
It was short. Yeah.
Did you have a bit of a shore break when you got into the ocean or?
Yeah, I had to adjust my goggles and then I was watching all these girls like right next to each other. And I was like, I'm going to get kicked in the face. And so I was like, I'm just going to lay back. Like, let's be honest, I don't need to win this event.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's probably a good plan. Did you put your head under the water in the swim?
Yes, I did. Multiple times. So proud. Didn't need a lifeboat. Nope. Did not even call a lifeguard over. And I was so proud.
Yeah. Did you have fun doing that event? Just something different? Or was it a challenge?
Man, people have asked me before, like, have you ever wanted to quit in a workout? And till that day, I have never wanted to quit. I'm serious. I have never wanted to be like, I can't see the end and I'm terrified and I want to quit. Like I've never been there. And on that event, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to see the end of this. Like, what if I die out here?
It's like a different ball game that people think.
I'm actually like emotional. Like I can feel like how scared I was. Yeah. Like right now. And I was actually terrified. So I got out to the buoy and was already tired and I hadn't even done the long leg yet. I was like, I can't breathe and there's people and I just was like I was just frazzled. Yeah. It's like, I have to put my head in the water and I have to swim. And I did. And then I would come up and I was like, Dot was right next to me and I know her from California. And so I was like, all right, just stay with her. And she was pretty consistent. She had her head in the water and she was just really consistent. So I just stayed with her and we just went along. Yeah. So
there's a big misunderstanding, I think, with swimming in Australia, and especially Australians against or talking about Americans, because they think, oh yeah, Americans can't really swim in the ocean. They're not that good unless they're from California or whatever. But it's also a different ball game, even when there's a little bit of swell and you're swimming with people and when you're racing. Yes. It's not a casual swim from A to B. No. In the sun when it's easy. That's easy. All the Aussies can do that because they've grown up in the ocean. Yeah. We're going to deal with feet kicking, water around you, and you're trying to get a better time. It's so different. Yeah. Yeah.
And I got off of out of the ocean to do that last run. And I was like, far out. Like, this is where this term comes from. Like, I could not believe. I was like, I can't believe how tired I am. I thought I was never going to see the beach again. And then we had to run that distance. And honestly, this was cool. Like, now I look back at it. But anyways, Buzz and my husband decided to run with me. This is so funny.
Oh, yeah, I think I saw that.
Oh, my gosh, this is so funny. At the end of the evening, Buzz told me, he goes, man, I started running with you. And I was like, okay, this is good. Like, should I do this? But I think this is good. I think I should run with her. And then he goes, I didn't want to tell you in the middle of the workout, but I was like not going to be able to keep up. And you started speeding up and he was like, okay, Tia, you're doing amazing. Like, keep going. And he didn't stop. I was like, Buzz, good for you.
It's not easy running in the sand. And he must have worn like normal clothes.
Okay, so he was wearing all black. He was wearing a long black Rise and Conquer shirt, like a long sleeve. And then he was also wearing like long black leggings. And I remember running and thinking, like in my peripheral, I could see him and thinking, I bet he's dying right now because it's so hot in those clothes. And it made me uncomfortable because I was like, that would be so hard. But along both sides, so like people, I'm from the States. Like I don't know if anybody knows me in Australia, but They do, because we were running and all these people along the edge were like, nearly there, Tia, nearly there. And I was like, this is so great. And then I would look up, I'm not nearly there, but I'm nearly there. Like,
well, you got to experience the beach life.
It was
proper beach life. Slugging away in the sand.
Definitely need to do more beach life.
Yeah, it's a big. The beach was really wide down there as well, so the sand was really soft.
Yeah, it was soft.
That's deep sand you're slugging through.
Yeah.
I wonder if they'll do another swim event next year.
Surely they will.
So
I think
a
staple.
That was a big deal in the switch to sanctionals, because the regional heads didn't have a whole lot of control on the standardization of beaches or pools.
Yeah.
And so now what they've done is they've released a lot of the responsibility to the sanctional heads, these people that are running these events. But CrossFit has very clearly made requirements because there's been a swim at every sanctionals.
So did they have a swim in China? I don't think they did. I thought there were a couple that didn't have a swim. So China and Rogue maybe. But maybe they didn't have...
I thought it was going to be a requirement because everybody had one.
I mean, I'd say almost every single one that had the ability to do one or that had an easier ability to do one has had one. But I don't think
even
China,
Brazil this last weekend had like a pool rowing workout.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think the one that I don't think had was China and Rogue.
It'd be great to have all of them standardized, because then that means everyone who goes to the games must be a good swimmer. Must be good in those kind of events, because usually you see, like, sorry, Easy Muhammad, if you're watching this. I remember him. I remember him as being the guy who goes to the games and he can't swim.
Yeah.
But I guess now,
I don't want to throw Alethea under the bus either, but like me and Alethea were right next to each other. She was behind me and not far behind me, but I remember being like, okay, I'll stick with her. And she's not a great swimmer either. She's got like battled a lot of emotional stuff with swimming. And she punched her ticket to the games. So like,
that's impressive. What, she took 60th or something in the swim and then still got a ticket to the games?
Yeah, that's
she
crazy.
was in another level on the third day.
Yeah. Lost it.
Yeah, that was cool.
Very good. And she's qualified in Masters, and I believe she hasn't decided which one she's going to take yet.
Yeah.
So.
Here's the question, though, is if she doesn't take her like individual pass and she goes Masters, then does someone get the runner-up?
Yeah, Lindsay.
You think they will? Because normally,
I don't know.
In the old structure, if you took fifth place at regionals and you had a ticket to as a Masters and you decided to go Masters, they didn't backfill.
Good question.
Like, look at Meredith Root this year. Like, Emily Abbott got tested and
they didn't,
and whatever got popped, and they didn't backfill Meredith, or they did backfill Meredith. I don't know. Anyways,
at least if you're watching, please show the young kids how it's done.
Still got it.
But
I think it is a harder choice than people think, because Alethea's been over there a few times at the games, so she's had that experience. She has a very big chance, I would say, to win the Masters. And if they make a rough cut, like a big cut on day one for the open category, regardless of who you are, there's a chance you're going to get cut on the first day. So, I shouldn't speak for her, but I'm guessing one of the reasons why she hasn't decided yet is because, one, she has a chance of winning or at least podiuming the Masters, or two, there is a chance of getting cut in day one.
Yeah.
I mean, she's an amazing athlete. I'm not saying she's getting cut in day one, but, those two things be like, what? Yeah,
that's a really tough decision.
Yeah.
But she was really sweet this weekend. She was one of the first people to come up and be like, hey, I'm Alethea. I'm like, great. I know who you are. It's nice to meet you.
She's awesome. Yeah.
Super
crushed a lot of those events for sure.
She's amazing.
Yeah, anything semi-gymnastics even, and she's going to crush it. Yeah, for sure. Did you meet any other athletes down there that you kind of connected a bit with? Yeah,
honestly, Jamie Green and Amanda Barnhart. I had a really awesome conversation with Amanda Barnhart after, because they held us, all top 10. They held us on the floor for like all the men's heats. So we were standing there.
To stay out there.
Yeah, we were standing there like half naked for like an hour and a half. Like, can we have our clothes? Like, they gave us beers, which was good. But anyways, I got to talk to Amanda, and she just kind of talked about her life and how that's very much so structured around training and what kind of work she's doing and how flexible her hours are. And
did you ask her about any swimming advice?
I didn't, but she's a former swimmer.
She's a good swimmer.
Yeah, she's a former swimmer. She crushed that event.
Yeah, she won it, didn't she?
I think so. I don't actually
I think
know
she won a
that.
clean and jerk and the swim.
Good for her.
Pretty good balance.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
But we had a conversation about what home life looks like for an athlete. I just got married, and learning how to balance marriage and training can be really hard. I think training is a very selfish thing. And so you have to find a good balance for like your entire life. It can't just be about like you. And previously in other seasons, I've been able to just be like, listen, if I want to go train, I can just go train. But now I have to think about all these other kinds of factors. And she just shined a really good light in that, which was just, you know, you train when they're busy, and they need to understand that when you need to rest, and that there's seasons for that. So there's rest seasons and those look different than training seasons. But it was really good. It was really good to talk to her.
Is she married
about
as
that.
well?
She is.
Yeah. Yeah. I think another thing people forget often is that these sanctionals weekends now, or the games weekends, they're almost harder on the partners than on the athletes. Like that can be rough for some of them.
I always said that there should be a support crew, like a support group. Like they should be able to go to like a spouse room at the event center and like all vent together.
Share the stories with other spouses. Yeah.
Like I know my husband went through like just some crazy things that I'll never know, you know. I can ask him, but I'll never know how stressful it is to be the spouse, or just to like make sure that people are being able to watch. Like he did a live feed on his Instagram for all of them, so my parents in the States could watch, and like and even just the logistics.
Called illegal streaming, but anyway.
Oh, sorry.
Is it really?
No.
Okay.
No, I think that's great. I'm all for it.
Yeah, and like wanting to say the right thing and wanting to support well and all that kind of stuff. So
that's exactly right. What that point you make there is perfect, because it's so hard if your partner's competing through an emotional roller coaster ride on that weekend, and knowing what to say and what not to say.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh, whatever I'm saying here, it's going to be the wrong thing.
Yeah. And you're always harder on the people that you're super close to. But this is like a really good point, because we are only responsible for our reactions. We can't control what other people say to us. And that goes with marriage. Like you can only control how you respond to what someone says. And so if someone came up to me, husband or not husband, and they said, you did horrible in that last event, or you did great in that last event, my response to that is the only thing I can control. Yeah. Whether I decide to absorb the fact that somebody thought I did horrible, or absorb the fact that someone thought I did great, my response can't influence me. And so like there's athlete responsibility on that. Like nobody around you is going to say anything perfect.
It's a great point, because most people just push it back on that comment that they got, and they're like, oh, why did that person say that? Why did that person say this thing that's rude or whatever? But you're right. Like you got to control your reaction to it, right?
Yeah. And I think that takes a lot of pressure off of the people around you, and it takes a lot of pressure off of your coaches. You know, they just want to be there to support you. Yeah. Like they have the best intentions. Like the people around you are not there to sabotage you. They're there to help you. And so if they say something wrong, it's not their responsibility to tiptoe or to walk on eggshells and make sure they say everything right. Like it's the athlete's responsibility to have a good head about it.
Did you have any situations this weekend where you were nervous for what to say, except for that you stuffed up all the weights?
Hey, she got it, so that's fine.
It was your first time coaching, right?
Yeah, so it was the first time at that level, so it's a little bit different. So probably on the third day, roughest day for us. We had a moment before the last event. Yeah, so we were just outside. And like Tia said, like it's battling, getting a taste of hoping to hit the top 5 or podium, and then at the same time trying to remind yourself the reason you're here in the first place is to learn things and enjoy the moment, things like that. It was tough to. What I found difficult was trying to find the balance of making sure that we're still giving it the best we've got, but at the same time remembering why we're here. So even saying the right thing, it was hard to kind of put it all together to say the right thing. But then with Tia, I think the best thing that we do is we just have conversations about it and be open, ask questions, and she's quite open with having conversations, and from there we kind of break it together rather than me trying to figure something out to say
the magic thing.
Yeah, and then hoping
exist. Just
like what you see in the movies, right? But there was nothing really like that. But I think the best thing with what happened with Tia was that we just have a conversation, and then I think she's very level-headed with those things. So that last event gave it what we had.
Yeah, the one of the conversations I had with Amanda Barnhart was, it's more important for you to have someone that's there with you for your training every day than it is to have like a coach that flies out to Sanctionals that programs for you and has never seen you train. And I am like so thankful that Danny and Muller could be there to support for the weekend, because they got to do all my training with me for the last 7 weeks. And they saw like a lot of the frustrations that I was going through in life. They saw like Muller and I on like week 5 of training decided to remodel the whole gym and stay up till 2 a.m. like 4 nights in a row. And it was super good for training, but
the gym looks mad.
But it looks great. And so, you know, like they know, Muller and Danny have seen what I'm like when I'm just exhausted, or what happens when I'm going into a workout where I'm like, I don't want to do this, or I'm just really tired. There was a week, I remember Danny was like, I can't, like, I'm just so tired. I was like, why are we so tired? And I told him, I said, you know, this is just normal and it's just how it goes. And so they learn about you when those moments happen in training. And having Danny and Muller in the back, I think they knew like the best version of me, so that when I started crumbling with emotional and physical stress, which is insane those weekends, they could kind of just bring me up to where I want to be living at, you know? So they did a really good job. And like, we just have conversation all day long. Like, that's what we do. We just talk. We talk through training. We talk about gym stuff. We talk about life. And that's what we did on the weekend. So
it's almost better having your training partners there than a coach per se, right? Like it's not,
And I called my coach every morning, and he gave me my game plan, and like my programming was on point and all that stuff. And it was super, like, really well done. Yeah. So well done. The tips I got from Joe were just, they blew me away, like so helpful. But on the floor, like having your teammates there and having them influence you as some like people that I look up to, that was just more important than anything.
Were you actually able to see Muller's face behind that big camera he was holding?
I was shouting.
I did see you a couple of times.
Danny can like yell loud. I was like, man, I hear you. I hear you.
Before we switch gear, I have one last question about your kind of your journey with competing in sport. I guess it's a big one, but what's the plans going ahead?
Yeah. You know, I didn't train and I hung in that top 10. And I can only imagine like what a really great year of training would be, and what the result would be if I really devoted myself to some training. I felt really limited previously by working 40 hours a week and feeling quite run down. And now Buzz and Muller have given me a lot of flexibility to work a certain amount and to really make, if I wanted it, to make training a priority. And this is a really cool place to be in, because this is the first time that I felt like if I wanted it and if my husband will support it, I can live the athlete life that I really wanted and not feel limited by work or stress. And that's awesome. So I'm going to look at this next season as another opportunity to devote to that, and we'll see where it takes me.
please qualify to the Rogue event because I will come over.
Okay.
Just as a spectator. I want an excuse to go. And this might not be a swimming event.
You just have to send
That would be
send
nice.
me an email, ask for leave. We'll see first.
Hey, it would be a great reason to go to the States to
Oh.
be competing in a Sanctionals.
I'd rather go to the Rogue event as a spectator than to the games, I think.
All right, I'm gonna have to watch these things. Like you were
I'm
even
frothing.
messaging me about it. I only watched one event, but I'll watch. I
Yeah.
saw that the crowd was pretty big too, and
Yeah.
everything was very professional. So
You want to
I
know
thought-
something that's funny? That Rogue Sanctional is in Ohio. You know who's from Ohio?
No, you?
Amanda Barnhart.
Oh.
She was like,
So-
I'm going to go somewhere cool, okay?
So she decided on Wollongong.
Yeah, compared to Ohio.
Oh, that's
So she
bad.
came down to Sydney. She's staying here till Friday, and she's going to like spend some time here.
Oh, she's still around.
She's going to make it a little bit of a vacation.
Yeah. I'm actually surprised there's not more Americans coming over for our events because it is, I would assume as an American, going to Australia would be so much fun.
Totally. But
Just
it is
seeing-
really far.
It's a big flight. I think from what I heard, Jacob Hapner flew in on Thursday. I think he arrived on Thursday. So
Yeah.
he was obviously very jet lagged over the whole weekend.
Yeah.
So with
then
that
he-
in mind, he did very well.
He didn't stay very long either.
Yeah.
Mm.
I
'Cause
know
he's already qualified.
a lot of athletes have like full-time jobs.
Mm.
That's a big deal. So for them to take time off.
What? CrossFit doesn't pay your bills?
That was like
surprised.
that was like a
God.
post I was telling Tia about. So one of my friends, Derek Duff. So Derek Duff is a father of 3. He's a hard worker, but he's just doing the programming from his gym, and then he qualified. Anyway, his wife's just very funny after putting the post up saying, "Congratulations, Duff. Oh, Derek, you've done well. Kids are very proud of you." And then at the end of it, it says, "Now go back to work because CrossFit doesn't pay the bills."
Oh my
We
gosh.
say that all the time. They put $0 in your super.
It's so
But I do always say, with other local comps, CrossFit pays pretty well. So
Yeah.
we have Sarah Hemmings here, who's a gymnast. She's represented Australia, and I don't think they get prize money. They get certificates. She's got medals and so on. But if she was to, say, do a local CrossFit comp these days, I know that in RevX, prize money for first is $10,000. So if you're really fit, CrossFit can pay you.
yeah.
10,000.
Yeah, RevX.
Wow.
You have to get through the gap. There's a gap. There's like the I don't compete, don't want to make money, and then there's like I compete and I do it recreationally, and then there's like I compete and I'm that good that you can make money.
It's like Matt Fraser picked up $50,000 this weekend.
I mean, he has had a very good year. If you go from the games to Dubai to
Oh, yeah.
Rogue, he's made a little bit of cash for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it just depends how long that is sustainable. And I shouldn't say too much. I've made my career, like my work, not as an athlete, but through jobs,
Yeah.
through CrossFit.
Oh,
So it
that's-
has paid the bills. And your business is all based around CrossFit.
Yeah. Well, there's a podcast that I listened to called How I Built This. It talks about talk about gold rush as an example. Whole lot of people go into the gold rush looking for gold, but then to get gold, you need equipment.
Mm.
And then he was talking about there's a lot of businesses who made money by selling pitchforks, shovels, and things like that. That's how Belkin came about. So Belkin, all they do is supply like cables. They supply things that
Chargers.
connect. Yeah, but it started with back in the IBM days. They didn't have universal like USB to plug something to something else.
Mm.
So they were selling different cables to plug, say, a different printer to IBM and then Mac. And now it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. So just like with CrossFit, you can make money.
Yeah.
Just doesn't always have to look like how Matt Fraser's doing it.
I was just talking to my husband about this. Like, I started with no career in mind. Like, I started CrossFit from high school
Mm.
and had no idea what I wanted to be when I grew up, you know? And competitive CrossFit has almost shaped that for me, though, because now I'm like, hey, like, I want to coach, I want to be in the gym, and this is something that really fuels me and fuels my passion, and I thrive off of it. And now I've moved across the world, and I'm saying, like, hey, like, this is the life I want to live.
Mm.
And so, like, there's a way to live that career and to build that. It just takes time.
Yeah. You just got to find it.
Yeah.
Really. So perfect segue, because I wanted to talk about you being a trainer at Rise and Conquer
Mhm.
and about being a CrossFit trainer. there is a lot of misconceptions still, and it might even be getting stronger and stronger about what it means to join a CrossFit gym. You know, people who have never experienced it, they hear all about the injuries and that it's dangerous and so on and so forth. What are the biggest misconceptions that you find, and what's the best gateway to get into a CrossFit gym?
I would say one of the biggest misconceptions is that you lift heavy too fast. Because I would argue that coaches are pretty good at saying, and I can't speak for all coaches, I can only speak for the ones that I know intimately in our gym and the ones I've worked with in the past. But if a beginner comes in, you're probably going to be working with an empty barbell. And guarantee you, if you don't move well, the coach is going to be like, wow, like we need to work on this form. That would be like the number one misconception. Is like if a beginner comes in, you're not like, okay, we're maxing out today. Like, I think you would have to be a really, really, really dumb coach to do that.
How often do you max out anyway in your classes?
I mean, hardly.
I don't remember the last time we did a 1RM.
Yeah.
I can't remember the last time I've done one either.
Yeah.
For me, unless it was a comp or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's also a way that CrossFit's evolved.
Yes.
Yeah. And then I would say, like, second misconception is I've seen really perfect movers, people who move so well, get injured really badly. And I've seen people who move horribly never get injured. So there's something there that we don't know, that research hasn't told us about why people get injured and what pain is. And that is, like, I think one of the biggest misconceptions about CrossFit. Like, an injury isn't CrossFit's fault. An injury is the athlete's fault.
Lifestyle, stress,
Yes.
sleep,
Yes.
et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes. So it is the coach's responsibility to communicate that if an athlete isn't feeling good, they need to learn how to back off. Like, it is a coach's responsibility to push people when they feel good and not push people when they don't, and to know your athletes that well. But nobody can know you as well as you know yourself. Like, you have to know when there's crazy happening on outside the gym in your life, and you come into the gym, you can't expect a PR. And if you do, you might be welcoming an injury. Yeah, if you have stress on your life, like, it's just gonna affect what's happening in the gym. So I'd say one of the biggest misconceptions is that you come to a CrossFit gym and you get injured. Yeah.
Injury is such a mute point to me because people get injured everywhere. You see people play social rugby, it's way more injuries.
Yeah.
I go to a Brazilian jiu-jitsu place and they're like, oh, like, you do CrossFit, people must be getting injured all the time. And then I see them on the mat, like,
they're like
injured
ripping
all
their
the
shoulders
time.
off. Yeah.
So it's, I mean, if you're pushing yourself a bit, there's always a little bit of a risk, but you don't have to come in and push yourself to the max all the time. And that's part of the thing that we say often, which is easy to say, hard to do, is like leave the ego at the door. But part of the beauty as well with CrossFit is that it's slightly competitive. So you do want to push yourself, but there's a fine line, right?
Yeah. And gyms are evolving and they're getting better.
Yeah, I think, like, when you were talking about the dark, grungy CrossFit gym scene, that's the ones, the gyms who are generally like that are also the gyms that are probably closing as well.
Yeah, 20 members or whatever.
Yeah. 20 dark, grungy, chalked up members.
Yeah.
But with misconceptions, I think one of the bigger ones as well is that CrossFit is hard.
Yes, good point.
And I don't think, like, it has to be all the time. Like, I always describe it to members as, if you're in here trying to push yourself at 100% every single day, that's just like saying, okay, I have a boxing fight, say 6 months from now. So to get better, I'm going to get into a fight every single day. Imagine if a boxer did that.
Yeah.
So I think one thing that CrossFit's getting better at in general, and coaches are getting better at, is knowing and educating the members to understand that every day doesn't always have to be like just busting your ass. You don't have to be bleeding every day. You don't have to be sweating. You don't have to be crying every day. And just learning how to be good to your body and slowly load, and then when it's time to test, we can test. but just like take a rest day. There's times for that, and there's times for testing yourself. But
Absolutely.
I think CrossFit's just been picked on so much in regard to that, but I think slowly that's coming along. Even in the Joe Rogan podcast. So Joe Rogan, if you're watching this, let us in the podcast.
It's it's such a good point, because I do still see a lot of people that I meet through the fitness industry, and you can just tell they're so curious about CrossFit, but they just haven't dared to take that first step yet.
Yeah.
But they definitely want to, like, they've been, been very skeptical for a long time, but then they're like getting closer and closer into getting their foot in the door.
Yeah.
So that brings me back to that other question. What is the best way to start?
Best way to start.
I want to add one more misconception.
Oh, sorry, yes.
I have one more really good one. And it's that CrossFit gets easier the more you do it.
Gets harder.
Like, listen, it is absolutely learning pacing, and there is absolutely balance. But everyone's like, oh, you just reach a point where it just is like easy. I'm like, nah, bro, it gets way harder. Because what happens is the better you move and the more efficient you are and the more you learn you can push yourself, like the harder that gets. Like we were just talking about, like it's harder to PR. Like you have to work way harder for that kind of stuff. And the window of learning narrows. And so you really have to focus, and you really have to like find what it is that's going to make you better. Like look at someone who can efficiently burpee. Like, how do you make burpees faster? Like that seems like such a silly question, but you can always be faster on a burpee. And guess what? If you ask someone to do a set of 20 as fast as they can, it's going to hurt just as bad as someone who needs to like worm off the floor.
Yeah.
Like that.
If not worse.
Yeah.
Right.
So if somebody is coming into your gym and they're like, oh, I just, I want to get past this like beginning phase where it's just like so hard. I'm like, well, you're going to like fix your expectations there, because this does not get easier.
There is one way where it gets easier. It's if you do it for 10 years and you push really hard, and then you just slow down really fast.
Like you
so just do 10 years first, and then then it gets a little bit easier.
Yeah. But getting people started?
For me, I started on my own, researching everything online, doing things in my garage, and then doing things at the Globo gym. I think the best way to start, so that you don't develop bad habits, or so that you have a coach from the get-go, is to get into a gym and test it out, trial it out.
Get coaching.
Yeah, but at the same time, you got to make sure that you come to the right place that's teaching you to be healthy and not just busting yourself.
That's part of our Okay, so I'm going to change the question a little bit, because that's a great point. Because part of our problem with CrossFit is that CrossFit gyms are not the same. They're very, very different.
Yeah.
Extremely different.
Yep.
So, to flip the question a bit.
Yeah.
Say if I'm looking for a CrossFit gym to sign up to, what should I be looking for to kind of gauge whether or not it's a good gym or not?
You're going to get me all fired up.
Okay.
Perfect. I like it.
Oh, man.
Get going.
It's like, this is what Buzz and Muller and I get to do all day.
This is a
try and figure out how to be the best CrossFit gym we can be.
Yeah. Well, look, there's multiple angles into why I think CrossFit gyms work. Like one major one is the community. Like it's close knit, and like if you're not here, your friend's gonna call you.
I will jump into a quick point about the community though. That means nothing to someone who hasn't been here.
Yeah.
Well,
they don't know what it means.
Okay, I guess we'll start with one point, because we have to talk about this.
All right.
So community though, like I'm telling you, and I told this to them when I first got here. I don't know what it is about CrossFit gyms, but the CrossFit gym community always reflects the owners. Every time. Yeah, I know gym owners that are really quiet. They're a little bit more socially awkward, but they're great people and they're great coaches, but they're just a little different, right? Their entire community is like that. And it's the weirdest thing. You walk into the gym and you get an immediate sense for it. I walked into this gym and everyone was super nice, high fives, so friendly, just genuine care for people. And look at Buzz and Muller. They're like, they genuinely care about people. Really awesome coaches, and they're very smart, and they're pushing for excellence. And that reflects so well in their community. These members here are the same way.
Yeah.
And it goes the other way too. There are people who don't push for excellence and they just want to like settle for whatever, and they're quiet and awkward and weird, and their members are that way.
Okay, so this is for someone who's wanting to try out CrossFit. One thing you're going to look for, obviously, is a great community makes the environment so much better. But at the same time, you don't want to just have a great community, but then horrible coaching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So can we then tip over to what are we looking for when we're coaching? Is that...
Yeah, because what you're saying with the community, you have to actually go into the gym and experience it, right?
Yeah.
Like it takes a little time. It's not just, you do get a sense after 5 minutes, but it takes a bit more than that to know what the community.
You got to catch
means.
their vibe. You got to like what they've got, what they have.
But if you got that right, one that's suitable to you, that's great. That makes training so much easier because instead of coming in of it being a chore, because you're around people that you enjoy, it makes it such a fun experience.
Yep.
So you look forward to training instead of dreading, oh, I have to do 150 wall balls today. Oh, I don't know who really looks forward to that. But you get my point.
Yeah.
With coaching now, there's many things to look for. I'm just thinking like with programming, you don't want to go to a gym that just has randomized programming where they still write it on the day. I don't know if that happens anymore, but you'd like to go to a place where they program ahead of time and to make sure that they have your safety in mind, you have your progression in mind, and not just random. That's another misconception with CrossFit. I think movements are random. So
yeah, they definitely shouldn't be.
Two thing with coaching, you have a good coach and a good gym ownership when the class is actually taught. So teaching isn't just telling them what the workout is and then allowing them to get ready or showing them the movements. Good teaching is, here's what the workout is. Let me show it to you. Let me have you practice it. And then we're going to do it. Right? And that's a part of running a good class, and then actual coaching. So if you're new and you come in and you get one coaching cue the whole time, that's not good coaching.
Knees out.
Can't go out any further.
And
they just keep repeating the same cue.
Yeah, that's not good coaching. Like, good coaching is the coach that says, okay, drive your knees out. They don't do it. Drive your knees out. Okay, you're not doing it. Let me help you do it. Let me help you find a way to do that.
Yeah.
And here's why we do it. And then they do it right. And you say, awesome job. That was fantastic. That's what we're looking for in the squat.
Yeah.
Good coaching is good class management, teaching a class and a safe class, and then focusing on that new person or every single person in that class and making sure that they're actually improving every day.
A detail, so I do get asked every now and then from friends that are, it takes them years to try CrossFit and then they finally decide to go and try it. And they do ask this question whether or not, what should I be looking for? And to that point, I always say one thing with the coaching that they should look for is that the coach is actually hands-on. Yeah. That sound weird, but if your coach never touches you or like tries to push you into the right position, if you're in a wrong position, to me that's pretty strange, unless you're uncomfortable with it and you just tell the coach you don't want to.
Some people are really coordinated and you can just say hips back and they know.
Someone who's been a gymnast for years, you're like, you say one cue once and you're like, all right, you're done.
You got it.
You got to like physically push them in the right direction, right? To learn a hinge or whatever.
Some people.
Yeah, that's one of the things I say. And then to your first point, another thing that I find easier to look for when they come into a gym is that if the owner or the coach, they just keep talking about the gym and the community and blah, blah, about themselves and blah, 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 and then never ask them a question. Never ask them about your sporting history, your injury history, what do you do for work, how many hours do you work, how often do you sleep, all that stuff. If they never ask any of that, I'm like, get out of there.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
Yeah.
Because, that's how I was taught.
Well, eventually, average CrossFitter would come to the gym maybe, 4 or 5 times a week. So they'd be spending, say, 90 minutes every time. Yeah, so that's a lot of time during the day. So you definitely want to go to a place where they actually care about you genuinely. They know you. They know the details about you. So it just puts everything together. So if you're looking for a gym and you want to trial, there's a lot to look for. But what would you say would be priority? What would you look for, number one thing? Like, say if I wanted to try, like, what am I looking for? What be, because it's so hard because we're listing a lot of things, but what do you think reckon will be? I know that you're the host. I'm asking you questions now.
That's okay. You can ask
Conversation.
Yeah.
But what would be number one thing? What would be priority?
If I was going to help them choosing, I would try to look at the programming a little bit, because if it's a benchmark workout every day of the week, that's a pretty bad sign.
Yeah.
And offer different, not necessarily different programs, although that is a plus, but athletes that are in a CrossFit gym can be very, very different, and they have different goals. So whether or not you're trying to, some people might not have an interest in snatching, especially full snatching if they've got bad shoulders and, they're in their 40s and their shoulders do struggle. Like some of the things, don't want to go in and do 150 butterfly pull-ups a week or snatch heavy weight for reps again and again. You want to have something to offer that type of person as well. So if they do look after your general pop in that sense, I think that's a great sign.
Yeah.
If you're new, you don't really know what to look for.
That's the problem.
Yeah. And I think if you're new, you need to develop the sense for what you want. So going to one CrossFit gym and being like, oh, this must be a really good one because I liked this coach and this programming seems good. Like, I had a good time. Okay, well, maybe you should walk down the street and go to a different gym and see how they do it. Maybe they have a worse community but better coaches. Maybe their facility sucks, but they have amazing coaches and their community is great. Maybe it's a different combo. But, you have to develop a sense for what you like.
And that's individual, right?
And that's very individual. Yeah. Because what if you have a sports background and you're actually a good athlete, you can kind of manage yourself. So you're okay with some coaching. And all you want is a really nice facility, good equipment, and a good community. So whatever about coaching.
It's a great point, because I actually went through this a few years ago when I decided to start Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which was brand new for me. And I was like, what do? I don't know anyone really where I lived in Melbourne that did it. But I asked a friend of mine up here in Sydney, what should I look for to pick a place to train? Because there's as many Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gyms as there's CrossFit gyms. Yeah. And he said exactly that point. He's like, you got to go and try different ones. And I did go to 3, and I picked one, and so glad I did.
That's how I got to Rise and Conquer.
Oh, really?
I went to pretty much every gym that was close by to my home. And this is such a good point. Great gyms. We have amazing gyms in this area. Great people. I loved all of them. But I felt at home here. And I felt like Buzz and Muller and the community were a perfect fit.
Yeah.
That's a great way to kind of wrap up that topic, I think. You got to try different ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. So slightly different again. Because I think I don't think I get that many people that are looking for a new gym, but we do get some listeners that have done CrossFit for a while, and they get to that point where you talked about before, where they realize that they're plateauing a bit. It's not, they're out of the honeymoon phase, and a lot of people realize, well, I'm probably not going to make the games, because let's be honest, some people do think that in the beginning. So they hit that 5-year mark, I would say. That's usually when it happens, and then they end up leaving a gym. But I've slugged through quite a few years. I think I'm about to hit 10. What are some of the ways that you can keep CrossFit sustainable after that long? Have you experienced that at your gym, where people kind of slow down a lot after 5 years?
Yeah, I think that number's probably very close to perfect.
Yeah.
That's like a long honeymoon phase kind of thing. Yeah, so we've had a few people kind of reach that point, and then they wonder, what do they do from there? But I do find that there's some people who kind of hit that plateau, but then we're talking about the more experienced and competitive guys, yeah?
Yeah.
I find that for people doing local comps, that's something that fire people up. So I think when people don't have a goal that's achievable at this stage, that's when people kind of drop off. But if someone's looking at saying the games and that's their only view and that's it, that's the only step, that's a big step. That's a very daunting step to look at, and especially if you're having to crack 5 years in a row and not getting anywhere near, obviously it leaves people to question why they're doing what they're doing now, because they're not getting to where they want to anyway.
Mm.
So I do find that when there's people who want to be competitive and finding like no reason anymore, like directing them to local comps, or it doesn't even have to be CrossFit related, directing to other things like triathlons.
Yeah.
Like for me as well, like I now like trying something different that kind of supplements what I do at CrossFit. That's been a real refreshing thing for me because it kind of breaks the mold of doing the same thing over and over. I've enjoyed, so for those listening, like I've been swimming a little bit more, and doing triathlon type of things a little bit more.
We call him the brown dolphin, just so you all know, because it's a real
he swims
thing.
like a dolphin.
Playful.
One thing I even
Playful swimming.
that's it. I don't even do laps. Just jump up and down.
Splash around.
One thing I even posted about was it was refreshing becoming a beginner again and accepting becoming a beginner again. So
Wow.
I've been so used to, say, CrossFit, doing that for 5 years, doing things well and knowing the technique side of things already. And then getting into swimming, it was just different. I had to learn new things, and it kind of, like I said, it broke the mold of doing the same thing over and over.
Such a good point.
But that, I don't know what it is, but that coming back to training, it's refreshing. Like it kind of gives me a different angle, different motivation to keep training here as well, because I think it helps the new thing that I'm doing.
Yeah.
Your goal isn't anymore to do 100 thrusters as fast as you can. It's something outside of the gym, but doing the classes in it help a lot, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So.
I just posted about how there are lessons that are in front of us. Maybe that's a physical adaptation, or maybe that's like a mental lesson, that are just in front of us, and they're just waiting for us to learn them. But we don't always know what those things are. And I think when people hit plateaus, they're ready for a switch up. They're ready for something to learn something. They're ready for some next step. And this kind of goes back to like being a good coach. But if your athletes are hitting plateaus, like you need to be there for them to show them what's next. Like I said on the burpee, like you can always do a burpee faster. If an athlete comes up to you and they're like, I'm never going to get faster at burpees, like I've just plateaued.
Heard that a few times.
Yeah, I'm going to be like, okay, let me teach you some things, right? And then if they have good technique and they're like literally bouncing off the floor, moving as fast as they can, then you give them a test, like, all right, let's race. Like, and that's the competitive side of things. So that is one of my favorite things about CrossFit is that kind of like the spiritual life. Like you can always be a better person. You can always be fitter. And there are plateaus because you do reach a point where you're like, I'm ready for something else. Like I'm ready for another challenge. But there's another step. Like there are games athletes out there that can improve their movement.
Yeah, I mean, believe it or not, Matt Fraser can get better.
Yeah. and like humbling yourself enough to be like, okay, I'm at a point where I feel like I've plateaued. And they're like, I need something new. Like maybe it's just looking at yourself from a different perspective and being like, I guess this is time to focus on something different. And that might be a physical task, but to be honest with you, a lot of it might be mental. Yeah. I know there are a lot of people who come in the gym and they look at what's on the whiteboard and they tell me, oh my gosh, I hate those. Can I do something else? No. Like, no. So like there's very much so adaptation and plateaus in lots of different areas, but they all can be addressed with good coaching, good programming, and the ability to like say, hey, this is where I'm at and now I'm ready to push more. Yeah. So if an athlete plateaued, what do you think a competitive athlete would do? If you are a competitive athlete and you've hit a plateau and you're like, well, I want to do better next year. Right? They have something to base off of because they're like, oh, I'm working towards something. Like you can't just sit there. Yeah. Like you have to figure out a way to get better.
Yeah, I guarantee almost all the top CrossFit athletes have been through several plateaus.
Yeah. But they don't sit there for long.
No.
Because they're like, okay, like I need something to work on. They're workhorses. They like to work.
Yeah. And some of them go through big injuries as well, which makes them even go below a plateau really, and then they have to work their way up again. I mean, Annie was a perfect example with her back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
crazy that she's come back as strong as
Yeah.
she has. And now she's on a solid run to make the podium every
Yeah.
year.
But I would argue too, I actually said this to Dan Bailey. We were having a conversation about his surgeries and all his knee and arm. Anyways, I told him, I said, sometimes injuries are a blessing in disguise because they're more of a mental battle than they are a physical one, especially for a competitive athlete. Like their bodies are going to heal and things are going to take their course, but it's more mental and emotional sometimes than anything. And so for Annie, like that might have been the best journey. That might have been the best thing that could have happened to her because she just learned, you know, how to balance or how to rest, or I don't even know. I'd have to talk to her about what it meant to her. But
fix imbalances.
It could have been just proving to herself that she could bounce back like that. Like, heck, that is so cool. Yeah. So like what you can define a plateau however you want to define it. But, you know, if an athlete came up to me and they said, I want to get better and I feel like I'm not getting any better, or listen, like I got a lot better last year and now I feel like I'm worse. It's telling them and encouraging them and showing them that they can get better.
So, to round this off, what are some of the challenges that we have that's coming up? Doesn't have to be athlete related, but maybe that's the most obvious way to go. You got your triathlon.
Okay.
Definitely know that one.
Yes, I got that in October, and then possible half Ironman next year in August.
Oh, which Ironman are you going to do then?
Cebu. So, I'm Filipino, guys, and there's this. I didn't know it was such a big thing.
That's why everyone's his cousin.
she's catching on too fast. But yeah, I actually want to try that. Like that'll be.
So it's a half Ironman in the Philippines.
Yeah, it's a big one. It's a big international one.
Ocean swim.
Yeah.
Can I be your coach?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Just make sure you load it up right.
Oh my gosh, yes. I'll put rocks in your shoes. Just kidding.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a great challenge. What time of year is that?
So the one in October is in Nepean. That's just I think they call it a sprint try. We're doing that with a few of the CrossFit Urge boys, and then August next year.
And what does your training look like for that? Do you do anything specific?
So right now, look, my focus is a whole lot of swimming. So just working on my strokes, being consistent. So like I started from a 25-meter pool, having to rest every 25 meters, to last week doing 1,000 nonstop, which that I've only been doing that for about 4 months now. So and all it took was for me to decide, like, regardless of how I feel, whether I like it or not, I'm going to go to the pool Thursday morning, 6 a.m. And I've been doing that every week. Sometimes I'll go twice a week. And I've been getting some lessons at the beach with Kimbo as well.
Haven't helped you that much yet. But and we should also say...
Nothing like learning how to swim from some Asians.
Yeah. Asian Norwegian swim coach. That's... yeah, you signed the wrong coach there. But you also do CrossFit, right?
Yeah, so...
How much CrossFit did you do in the last 7 weeks, Muller?
Okay, so...
You must have done a bit training with you.
Yeah.
Before Tia was here, I was probably doing 3-4 classes a week. Usually, I'm in the gym, I'm doing work, and I just push it. I think, I got to do this email. I got to finish this. I got to, I don't know, finish this video. I got to do this programming. I'll sort all this stuff out. I'll just train later. And then later comes along, it's like, I got another thing to do. And then it just... Eventually, I'd miss out on training. So, but with Tia on board, like obviously she has to train, and like I'm there just training with her to try push her if I can for the first 2 minutes, and then drop. But since then, just been training twice a day with her.
A lot
training with her for Down Under. But yeah, that's just been helping her keep me consistent.
Muller's really good at going really fast for a short period of time.
That's not a good skill for a triathlon.
No, it's not. So don't you think it's the perfect
challenge
supplement for exactly what I need?
Exactly right.
Down Under 2025. I'm joking.
Maybe they'll have a full try by then. And then you'll just crush it because you've been doing all this training.
Maybe that'll be amazing.
Yeah.
But look, for me, like I train to stay healthy. I train to enjoy it. I train to set the example of what I teach our members here. At the same time, I train to learn. Like Tia would know, I love numbers, like all the stats side of things. Like for example, when we're doing sprint workouts or say we're doing running workouts, I'll write everything to the second because it's interesting.
Yeah.
So those things interest me. In regards to competition, it's not really something that's in my radar or anything like that. I know what it takes. Like I see what it takes for people to get there, and like I have a wife, I got a home loan, I've got a puppy, I've got friends to catch up with, I've got like businesses to run, and so
you're not trying to win the triathlon, is what you're saying.
I'm just trying to finish it.
Yeah.
And all of that, like learning how to balance everything as well. So it's a constant battle. Like just like a bike, I try to find like a perfect balance so that everything is perfect, everything is set, and I'll just do that every week. I don't think it works like that. Like it's just like a bike. As there's motion, you need to constantly be balancing, trying to figure it out. Yeah, like as seasons come, see what works, see what doesn't. But at this time, like having working with Tia, so usually we work in the morning. We'll do some back-end admin side of things. We'll train, then we'll have lunch and we'll do the same thing, and then train again, and then we coach in the afternoons and night times. So that's been a good push for me. Kind of makes me train and working well for me.
It's awesome.
Glad to hear I'm a decent influence on ya, mate.
Sometimes.
Good use of the mate there. You stuck one in.
I wasn't going to do it because I didn't want to overuse it, but it was
there you
good.
go. There was one time she was saying it, like, I don't know, every
It was new
6,
and fun.
7 words, thinking, Tia, that's not a good time to use it.
Come on, D, learn.
How about you, Tia? What's coming up? You got anything specific?
Well, I'm going back to the States for a couple weeks, and I'm going to relax.
Nice.
Maybe take a rest day.
Please
And
do.
then when I get back, that'll be like traditional open prep training.
It's going to come around quick.
Yep. So that'll be the next challenge, which I personally love open prep. Training and getting back focused. To be honest with you, like I've added a new element to life, which is marriage. And so with all changes comes just moving around and adaptation and learning how things are going to go. And so
you're lucky as well, though. Your partner trains.
Yeah, he does. It's not. He knows CrossFit. He knows how passionate we can be about it. And so
I'd tell her that's a great thing. Because my wife has nothing to do with CrossFit, and
that can also be a great thing.
Yes, and at the same time, like she doesn't care. Like, if I smash the PR today, she's not gonna care. I won't believe what I did today. I did like 2,000 meters of lunges. She's not gonna care. I didn't do 2,000 meters of lunges, but yeah.
So
Awesome.
Next up is the Open, and then after that, make a plan for Sanctionals, and I'm thinking maybe 2 of
2
them.
Sanctionals, yeah. One
like
Australian
reasonable.
and the Rogue one.
Maybe maybe an Australian one.
For us, just doing it for us.
Yeah.
And then, honestly, going back to the States would be a good one because it's an opportunity to go back there and see my family.
Yeah.
But I honestly haven't made a plan for that. So
it'll be easier to plan the next season. Not at this point because we don't know quite yet. But I think the next season will be more easily overview of it. Like
the structure makes way more sense.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I want to shoot for Down Under next year, though.
Again.
Yeah, I loved it.
We're going to swim a bunch.
Yeah, we are going to swim a lot.
Can't wait. All right, Tia, anything you want to plug at the end for any listeners that got through all of this? Sponsors, where to follow you, where to come and train?
Yeah, honestly, I think like the message that I just always tell people is that like our mind is everything, and it's kind of the message that I share on Instagram. Just like our physical fitness is an opportunity to improve ourselves. And so if you're really interested in that kind of headspace, like give me a follow and read along.
Instagram handle?
Yep, TiaWright06. TiaWright06.
What's the 6 for?
I was TiaWright 01, 02, 03, 04, 05 was taken.
Okay, so not a magic number.
No. And so, that's it. But, my sponsors are all on there, so.
Awesome. All right. Thanks for the chat. And we'll have to have you back on next year after the Rogue Invitational.
Man, what the hype.
Thanks,
awesome.
guys.
Thanks for having us.